Hey, what's up? I got my laptop open. It's a Friday. That means more Q&A from you today. We're talking about Seller Plus. We're talking about cancellations. We're talking about conversion rates. All that and more right here on Fiverr Talks. And to keep things interesting today, I've got a new 2-camera system. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And we're going to be talking about all of your questions that you've sent in the comment section over the last week. So if you'd like to have a question answered on next Friday's show, well, then just leave it in the comments down below and I will get to it. The first question is a very important question. It comes from Ghost Gaming. Here we go. He says, a buyer placed an order with me and then immediately requested a cancellation. What's wrong with people? Can I just say that? This happens not all the time, but it happens enough for it to be annoying. I feel you, Ghost Gaming. They immediately requested a cancellation. I tried mentioning that this does affect us as sellers and asked if we could come to some sort of arrangement. That's cringeworthy, man. I'll tell you why in a second. The buyer said he would have no issue marking the order as complete and then leaving a review if I refund him off the platform or via PayPal or another method. That's even more cringy, bro. And then he asks, is this against any TOS rules or something? Can I avoid this cancellation? The truth is, this is against a lot of TOS rules. This is going to hurt a lot of things if you get caught. You do not want to be doing any of the things mentioned in this question. Here's why. First and foremost, if you mention to a buyer that requests a cancellation that this possible cancellation could hurt your rating as a seller, that's called manipulation in Fiverr's eyes. Do I agree with that? No, I think that's kind of silly. You're just letting the buyer know what's going on. Some buyers have no idea about things like this, but Fiverr considers it manipulation, and therefore you should never do that. You can never do that. If you do this and Fiverr catches it, they will give you a warning. And possibly over time, enough warnings, you will be demoted or you will lose rank or you could even be kicked off the platform for stuff like this. Along with other things like the second suggestion, which was having the buyer mark the order complete and leaving a review. An empty delivery, meaning a delivery with no real product, is another thing that you could get warned for or even kicked off the platform for. That is not anything to be done. That is not anything to be trifled with. Don't ever, ever, ever do that. And then third strike, 3 strikes and you're out, by the way. Third strike is asking them to refund the money off of the platform via a payment center like PayPal or another method. This is just wrong on so many levels. If Fiverr sees that word PayPal or that you're talking about paying somebody off of the platform, they will get very seriously angry and they will come after you, and this is a very bad thing. So Ghost Gaming, I hope you just accepted this cancellation. I hope that you just moved on, because a cancellation is not near as costly as strikes on your account being demoted from your level or worse, kicked off the platform. All of these things that you mentioned are against the terms of service, and it is our job as sellers to try to work within, play within those bounds or those ground rules, and you need to know that these things are wrong. You need to read up on the TOS, make sure that you know or watch videos like this to know that all 3 of these suggested things in sequence are wrong and they're bad ideas. So stay away from all of these, just so we're sure. Don't ever mention to a buyer that a cancellation is a black mark on your record. That's manipulation. Don't ever ask a buyer to leave a fake review or deliver an empty, have an empty delivery. That's a warning. And don't ever talk to anybody about transferring money or doing any kind of payment off the platform. All of these things will get you in major trouble. So I hope I wasn't unclear. I hope that you didn't do any of these things and you'll know better for next time. Very serious. All right. The next question comes from MM, not M&Ms. That would be tasty. Just MM. He or she says, quick question. How do you deal with insistent people wanting to work with you when you don't want to work with them? I totally get this. If it's a buyer you've worked with in the past and you know that they're a little bit of a pain, you know they're a trouble buyer. But other than that, who's insisting to work with you that you just don't want to work with, you can't work with? I would say try to make it work. If they haven't worked with you before, try to make it work. And if it's something where they're asking you to do something inappropriate and you don't want to work with them because they're asking something wrong, reach out to customer service. Reach out and say, hey, this person is insisting we work together. They're doing things and asking for things that I just can't do for them, or I think are wrong or immoral or whatever it is. And customer support will help you with that. Now, ultimately, if someone is insisting on working with you and you don't want to work with them, all you can do is just politely say no consistently, or if they place an order, request a kind of a cancellation. If they don't want to accept the cancellation mutually, you can reach out to customer support, see if they can help with the issue. I really can't see this being a huge issue, because who in their right mind wants to pay money to work with a freelancer that is consistently saying, and clearly, I don't want to, I can't work with you, I can't help you, whatever it is. It sounds like maybe you need to be more clear and more direct with this person or persons and just say, I simply can't help you. Sorry, you need to move on. And if we need to get customer service involved, we will. Hope that helps. Next question comes from Nika. Nika says, how do I raise my prices without losing repeat buyers? Well, Nika, the problem is you can't. Raising prices will disqualify some of your buyers who were there because you were a good fit for their budget, a good fit for what they were currently doing. I remember making those moves in my business, and there are times when I would raise my prices, even just incrementally, and buyers would let me know, hey, I've loved working with you, but you're now outside of my budget. I can't do anything about that. So the truth is, there are times when you're going to need to raise your prices, and you're going to lose some buyers, even some buyers that have consistently bought over you. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is raising my prices and progressing my business in this way worth losing these buyers now so that I can possibly gain better buyers in the future who are willing to be repeat buyers at this new price, which is actually a better reflection of my time investment, my service level, ability, and quality, all of those things. You have to weigh out the pros and cons, but most of the time, in my case, through my experience, the people you lose have been replaced by other buyers, and sometimes even better buyers who respect you, your time, your work, and all of that stuff even more. Hopefully that helps. Fahad says, I'm a content writer, and I've completed 36 projects. I currently am a level 1 seller and will hopefully become a level 2 in the future. Keep it up, and I'm sure you will. He says, I'm thinking of learning some new skills. Totally different than my field of expertise currently, like maybe WordPress development. Do you recommend that I learn a skill and then sell it on Fiverr, regardless of the fact that the competition in that service area is about 90,000 gigs? That's a really good question. And it's something to think seriously about if you're going to set about the journey of learning a new skill. This is something that I've talked about a few times on the channel, but not consistently. I think it's a great topic for a future video. Are there times when freelancers need to target, laser in, and focus on a new skill, learn it so they can begin to sell in that category? I'm a great example of this. I started out as a voice actor and a voice actor alone. Then people began to ask me for videos. I branched out. I learned a little bit about video, how to shoot myself, light myself, get a set ready, read from a teleprompter. I taught myself those skills, began to offer that service with no experience. Then people were asking for animations to go along with my voiceovers, which I didn't do. I taught myself that skill, and here I am 7 or 8 years later, and animation is a huge part of what I do, almost the entirety of what I do. So the truth is, Fahad, when you're learning a new skill or setting out to learn a new skill, you need to ask a couple questions. The first question is there an audience for this skill? And seeing something with 90,000 gigs on Fiverr currently up in that category tells you there's enough buyers to support this skill. The second question you have to ask is, can I compete with these buyers, these other sellers? Can I compete in this marketplace learning this skill? How long will it take me to get the skills and the expertise I need to compete with these people? And number 3, is it something I enjoy? That's something you can't leave out, something you have to think about. Do I enjoy this enough to do it? Not just, will this make me more money? So I would say if you consider all three of those factors and things check out, you would enjoy it. There is enough of an audience to support you jumping into it, and you can be competitive, then sure, why not? 90,000 gigs is just an indication that a lot of people need this service. If you're able to learn it to a level where you can offer a high quality service and be competitive in the marketplace with your pricing, I think it's worth a shot. So think about those three things whenever you're starting a new gig offering or trying to learn a new skill. I definitely think you should always be learning new skills. If we're not learning, we're dying. And I don't know who said that, but I think it's a great quote. Put that out there. All right, thanks for your question. Scion Gaming, back with another question. Love your questions. Thanks for submitting them. He asks, what attracts buyers to a gig image? Really good question. And in fact, something that we don't talk about a lot. We talk about needing a great quality gig image. We talk about needing it to be attractive and all those things. But his question is specifically, what attracts a buyer to a gig image? Well, first and foremost, I think it's the standard things that attract people to thumbnails overall. Do a little research about YouTube thumbnails. There's a lot of videos and education out there about what makes a YouTube thumbnail good. But one of the things that I believe is a key factor in getting a buyer's attention is making sure that your thumbnail is different than the others that they're seeing in the search lineup. So if someone searched for your services, what kind of thumbnails are they going to see? Do they all look the same? You need to make yours a little bit different. How can you make yours a little bit different? What can you do to stand out from the crowd? And then once you've got their attention, what causes them, after they've stopped scrolling, what causes them to click? There's a lot of different factors in here, but I think it comes down to being different, being eye-catching, and really summing up your service and what differentiates you in that thumbnail. Now, granted, you can't add thousands of things on a thumbnail. No one's going to see them. You need to pick 1 or 2 or 3 points of focus in a very small thumbnail, sometimes on a phone. So make sure you're really calculated on that. Make it different and make yourself stand out with that thumbnail by putting a few of your differentiators on there. Now remember, what you can't do is put things like top rated or 5 stars or any of those things that could change within Fiverr, or Fiverr won't approve your thumbnail or your gig video because you can't say you're a top rated seller anymore. You can't say you have 5-star reviews because you might lose your status, you might get a bad review, and those things could change, so they won't let you put them on your thumbnail. So do a little perusing, see what's in your category, and see how you can be different. Thanks for your question. Our next question comes from Wendy Noble. Wendy is actually asking a question that a lot of people have been asking on the channel over the last couple weeks, and it's about subscription services. If you didn't watch last week's video about repeat buyers, subscription services kind of play into this idea. How do we get people to come back consistently over and over? She says, what's up with subscription services? I'm really not convinced it's worthwhile. Wendy, I can say that in some cases you might be right. If you don't have a service that lends itself to a subscription model, it might not be worthwhile for you. For instance, I don't offer subscriptions on any of my gigs, and that's mainly because none of my offerings are easily put into a subscription box where people will need them over and over and over consistently month after month. But if you can get people to purchase subscriptions on your services by packaging it somehow, placing it strategically, they're definitely worthwhile because it's automatic. Giving people the opportunity to sign up to receive your services or a chunk or bundle of services every single week or month is definitely worthwhile to you because it's automatic repeat buyers, repeat business. So it's worthwhile in the sense that if you can get people to buy it, it's a great kind of attachment to your services that keeps them coming back, but you don't need to force it if it's just not going to work for your service. If your service doesn't work with a subscription model, then it's not worthwhile. So don't drive a round peg into a square hole, but make sure it works. And if it does, then put it to work for you. All right? Okay. Andreas Munoz Revelo. Gosh, I love saying that name. Andreas Munoz Revelo. He says or asks, I haven't had a sale in weeks, but my gig has views and I haven't changed anything. What up with that? Ooh-wee. What's up with that? Little SNL throwback there. Andreas, this is a really great question. What's up with that? And it's a question that most of us have asked ourselves at some point in time in our Fiverr seller life. Why have sales dropped? I haven't done anything, haven't changed anything. People are viewing my gigs, but they're not buying. What's going on? Sometimes this is just the wave that comes by. It's the motion of the ocean, and things go up and things come down, and there's nothing you can do about it. Then there are other times when this has something to do with a failing within your gig, meaning that there's something that's just not attractive enough about your gig. Maybe people are making it to your gig page. There's click through. So it's not just impressions, but it's clicks. And then there's something on the page that's not pulling them to buy. Maybe you need a new gig video. Maybe you need to rewrite your gig description, make it more clear, add more samples, whatever it is, something is not causing them to click through and convert into a customer. I think the only thing you can really do is look at your gig page. How do I make this more attractive? And that's if you're getting click-throughs. If you're getting a lot of impressions but no orders, look at your thumbnail, just like we talked about. That thumbnail has to be clicked on before they get to your gig page, and that might be your problem. Maybe you have a bad thumbnail. So you're appearing on gig pages, but you're not getting clicks or click-throughs or conversions. Evaluate everything as a whole package and see, hey, what's going on here? What could I improve to kind of fix this part of the statistics for myself and my gig, and maybe that'll help. Just sometimes having sales in the past doesn't mean you're going to have sales in the future. Having sales yesterday doesn't mean you'll get them tomorrow, or last week doesn't mean you'll get them this week. Sometimes you need to change things as the audience and times change, but be very calculated about what you change and when you change and how often you change, because too much, too early, too often can hurt your Fiverr gig. I hope that was helpful. Smizzle Beats. Boy, Smizzle Beats asks, when you get promoted to level 1 or 2 or even top rated, do you have access to more buyer requests? Smizzle, I got to tell you, I really don't use buyer requests. It's very rare that I would use them at all, if ever. Maybe when times are really slow and I want to try to get things moving. But really, it's in my case, has been a huge waste of time. And that's because there are so many buyer requests, so many people responding to buyer requests, that anyone that puts one out there is most likely going to get inundated with dozens or 50 or 100. I don't know how many responses, just tons. And it's people throwing super lowball numbers out there. It's really hard for people to wade through the riffraff to get to a quality service on a buyer request. So I don't tend to use them. I don't really know. My honest answer is I don't think so. I don't think that you get access to any more buyer requests when you level up. I could be wrong. Somebody correct me if you know the answer to this. It's just been too long since I've been a level 1 or a level 2, and the rules change all the time. What I can tell you is that if you sign up for Seller Plus, which I'm not necessarily recommending, but I will say as a teaser, I signed up for it this week, just to see what it was like, and so I could share that with you all. It's $29 a month, and you get access to more buyer requests. I've tried to send a few since I've gotten that, but I honestly don't think they're all that worthwhile. I haven't gotten a single order from them. It feels like a bit of a waste of time. No communication from them, so take that for what it's worth. This advice is worth what you paid for it. And if anybody else has comments about buyer requests that might be more familiar, or maybe it works better in your category, leave your comment down below and let Smizzle Beats know. All right, just a couple questions left here. We've got Ilangoranga. Wow, that's an awesome username. Ilangoranga says, I'm a graphic designer on Fiverr, and my question is, why don't I see any buyer requests for my category? And if I do see them, they're gone very quickly. Well, my guess is, Ilangoranga, that you do have a lot of buyer requests in that category because it's a huge and competitive category. And that's exactly why when you see them, they're gone instantly, because people apply. Like I said before, it's dozens, hundreds, lots of people replying and getting in on these requests, and then they just disappear very quickly. So it's, like I said before, buyer requests really aren't that useful in some categories. And in my case, I haven't found a whole lot of use for them either. Nayab Soul asks, how do I become a Fiverr Pro? Well, Nayab, my question would be, do you want to be a Fiverr Pro? Becoming a Fiverr Pro puts you in a completely different category of seller, meaning that you don't have the same you're not in the same competitive pool as a regular Fiverr seller. And I believe the most popular category for buyers is the general Fiverr seller public. Now, there is a small category that might be going straight to pro, but I believe it's a minority. In the past, that category has struggled. I don't know a lot of sellers that are exclusively Fiverr Pro freelancers. I know a lot of agencies from the outside that use Fiverr Pro as sort of a lead generation tool, if you will. So the question is, do you want to be a Fiverr Pro? I've weighed that out. I've actually not applied to be a Fiverr Pro for most of my offerings. I applied one time for one gig, and they simply said, the price you sell at is too low. Fiverr Pros sell at a much higher rate, and I wasn't convinced that I needed to sell my services for a higher rate. I think my customer's right where I'm selling at now, so I just didn't adjust anything and didn't join the program. In a sense, I chose not to. So I think you need to ask yourself that question. Do you want to be a Fiverr Pro? If you do, there's an application process. Just search on Fiverr's website. You can apply. They'll evaluate your gigs, and they'll give you some kind of response. It's pretty quick. I think it happens within a week, or it did when I tried it. This was a year or two ago, a while ago, so I'm not 100% sure, but that's how you do it. You apply to become a Fiverr Pro for each gig. They evaluate it and then give you a response. But ask yourself the philosophical question, do you want to be a Fiverr Pro and leave the general Fiverr category and go over here where there are less buyers? My answer personally is no. Hope that helps. And the last question for today comes from Anime Fan Club. Hi, Joel. Hi. He asks, I've requested to join Seller Plus, but still haven't gotten in yet. How much time does it take to get approved? Well, Anime Fan Club, as I said earlier in this video, I signed up for Fiverr Plus, Seller Plus this week just to see how things were. And for me, it was click button and straight in. I wasn't aware that there were still any restrictions on Fiverr Seller Plus. So I searched Fiverr's website. I looked on the Seller Plus page. I didn't see that there were any restrictions, but it's possible that even though it's not documented, they're restricting it to maybe top-rated sellers or specific sellers. I'm not sure. If anybody has experience with having to apply for Seller Plus, leave a comment down below. I know that that was a thing in the beginning, and I know that they were restricting it for a while to certain sellers, certain gigs, but now it seems like it's open to the public, or it could just be that's the way it looks in my dashboard because I was eligible for it. So I think when you're eligible for it, it's a click button, instantly join. I instantly had access to the analytics, and I could jump right in and start using them. So if anybody has any other insights or a different opinion, please leave a comment down below. Hey, thanks so much for joining us for this week's Q&A session. I really love doing these, seeing your questions, your reactions, your thoughts, all of these things. So if you have a question, leave it for me in the comments down below, and I'll try to get to them next Friday. As always, there's a lot of questions, and sometimes I can't get to all of them, so please don't be offended if I don't get to yours. Maybe I'll be able to roll it to the next week, or maybe it was so similar to somebody else's question that I just didn't answer it to save time and effort. So in the meantime, keep working hard, keep asking questions, leave them in the comments for me down below, and I will see you next week. Hey, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed this content, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. You can subscribe for more videos right over there, and there's actually a playlist of videos right there that would really be great for you if you're looking for more tips on how to become a top-rated seller on Fiverr. So until next time, keep doing, because the future favors the doers.